Hello. This is Alisia Young, and welcome to Teach Me Freedom. This podcast is about learning how to live a freer life from authors, entrepreneurs, and experts. Those who have done it and who teach others how to do it as well, and what it feels like while applying those methods to our lives along the way. Every episode will deliver resources, anecdotes, and or reviews to support you in living a more freedom-filled life. Let's jump in. Hello, Freedom Finders. Welcome back. It's been almost a year. Cannot believe that. Wow. Well, it feels so good to be back. And as you know, the reason for the delay before was to just focus on finishing up school and also figuring out my work situation after that. And then afterwards, taking some time to recover and then happen to fit a few projects in between there, which I'm going to share a bit about with you momentarily. But the point of this episode is to get reoriented and refocused on the purpose of the podcast and what you can look forward to now that we are back. So, starting off with, what's been taking place since the last episode. Two major projects were, there was a summit that I had worked on with a group of 21 expert speakers. It was called Embrace Your Body Now, and it was for my business Eat and Live Free, which is focused on nutritious eating, but overcoming food obsession, especially disordered eating. And the summit itself was focused on looking at things such as toxic diet culture and how it impacts our body image, our sense of self-worth, and just how we fit into this world in our confidence levels, but also how we respond to the advertising and how we respond to just all the images being presented in front of us, and how that affects our aspirations for both our lives and also our bodies and how we take care of ourselves. So that was back in May, and it was a pretty amazing summit, although I'm pretty biased. So I'll send a link down there. There's still, if that's something you're interested in, feel free to check it out. It's still available to watch. So check that out there. And then another project was I was also working on creating the audiobook version of my book, Congrats Superwoman When You've Climbed the Mountain and Still Don't Feel Good Enough. So that was published in late 2020, and so the audiobook version is now available on Amazon, so I'll post a link down there. But that was also something that was a project as well. And the books that were planned to be read for this season of the podcast, a lot of them have been read, and even a lot of the episodes I had recorded, but I also dealt with a bit of perfectionism, and that pulled me to really think about refocusing and looking at, well, what is the purpose of this podcast? And so some time was taken to figure that out, to be able to come back stronger and more focused, because you may find this. I know I definitely find it when I'm not sure about why I'm doing something. It's so easy to get caught up in the mess of, well, not the mess, but the noise or the extreme level of activity. And then I was like, well, why am I doing this podcast? And I want to say thank you. I've gotten to speak with some of you through email, and just hearing how the podcast has been affecting you and, provoking you to think. It's been amazing. And I often think back to the authors and those amazing professionals who have interviewed on the podcast. And really, that's why this is a love, a passion project, and a strong hobby of mine. Another reason for this podcast is to inspire you to read and to learn, and realize that we are in a world where we can learn so much. You're not limited to the curriculums that you're forced to follow or the curriculums that you may sign up for. There's lots of information out there and lots of amazing teachers with lots of life experience to share. And it's really to inspire you, and especially for those of us, because I'm going through this myself, and I'm just here to be sharing my journey with you and inviting you to join me along it. But just figuring out adulthood. And I mean, because of my current age, I am in the range of being a millennial. So of course, a lot of millennials are going through aspects of what I'm going through. So you may not necessarily be in the millennial range at this point in time, but there are still some things that you may be dealing with as well. And so the goal is to help you to see that you are really not alone. We aren't alone, even though it can feel that way a lot of the time, and to just support each other and to continue to learn from the resources that we have available to us, and ultimately feel confident and secure in navigating our adulthood and the different things we're going to likely face in life along that journey. So as you know, this season is focused on marriage and parenthood. I specify motherhood just because I'm a female, I identify being female, and a major decision that I'm considering is whether or not to become a parent by choice. So that's another aspect of it. And so that brings us to the next aspect of this episode, which is, well, what is the new game plan? It's been about a year, so what's up? What's next? And really, the focus is to continue along with this season. The different topics we're going to be focusing on are marriage, so whether or not to pursue marriage, what to look for when dating, how to date properly or appropriately, and especially particularly if you're marriage minded, that's what the focus is here. And then also addressing why be in a relationship versus choosing to be alone, or being alone not by choice but by circumstances, and how to deal with that, the different emotions, the different ways to deal with that. Then there's also looking at divorce. I know, we did talk with one of our excellent guests who talked about her experience of going through divorce, not necessarily by choice, but by circumstance, and how she came out the other side. But that was such an intense experience. So we'll be looking at divorce, some more information about divorce, what leads to divorce, and to prevent divorce from being such a stigmatized word. We did an interview earlier, I think it was in the first season, with Shirley, and she talks about, being a step parent and remarriage. And so that's, also another episode that addresses divorce as well. So that's another good episode to listen to if that topic is of interest to you. There's also choosing to be child-free or not choosing to be child-free. So child-free by choice or child-free by circumstances. And there's a lot of information out there. So looking forward to going through those books and chatting about them. And then we have pregnancy, if that's something to be pursued. We got to consider just the state of the world as it is and the future direction, but also that internal desire or lack of desire to be pregnant. And so that section of this series will look at, the process of pregnancy along with the decisions about whether or not to become pregnant. And then also another section will be becoming a step parent, because sometimes there may be, depending on if one wants to get married, then they may marry somebody who has parents from a previous relationship. And so that would automatically catapult that person into becoming a parent, a step parent. And so there's some great books that I've seen and some of which I've read, and looking forward to discussing those. So really, the point of this podcast is not for me to present myself as an expert. It's really, one, to be a source to inspire all of us to deal with the challenges and the confusions that we're dealing with as we grow up or go through adulthood and are facing these different things in our lives. Consulting the books written by experts or people who have lots of life experience or work experience in these domains, and really aiming to inspire you to also take hold of either those resources or to find other resources, but take ownership of your learning and to feel more confident as you are going through life and the challenges that you're facing, challenges which may be known to you and some that may not be known to you, but at least placing them on your radar to be more proactive and aware. And it's also a way for me personally to be accountable to all these books that I want to read. Life gets so busy. And as you saw this podcast, it's been like a year since publishing the last episode. And something I've continued to learn is accountability really helps to make things happen. So this is, by you listening, by me knowing I have to put these episodes out there, it means I just have to deal with it, the perfectionism, and get those episodes out. That being said, my goal for the future episodes are for them to be shorter. I'd really like to just focus on giving you a bit of background about the book and some takeaways that I've personally taken away from the books and some actions that I'll be taking or intend to take, and then maybe presenting some call to actions for you or some questions for you to ponder. So that's the plan. So stay tuned. We'll be resuming come September 2023. Join the mailing list to be informed every time a new episode comes out. Go to teachmefreedom.ca. You can join the mailing list there. You can also email me. I have a new email address. So you can still contact teachmefreedom2020@gmail.com, but now the professional email address is hello@teachmefreedom.ca. Very important that it's .ca. If you go to .com, it's going to take you somewhere different. So feel free to reach out to me there. If you want me to add you to the list, just let me know. And then that way you can stay posted and updated. So thank you again for your interest in this podcast. I'm so excited for continuing this journey together. And always remember to honor your time and honor your energy. See you in the fall. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Teach Me Freedom podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and found it beneficial. Feel free to reach out to us at teachmefreedom2020@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the show on your favorite platform for streaming content. Feel free to comment and leave a 4 or 5 star review if you feel so inclined. Connect with you next time.